I didn't react the right way to my husband's pranks and now our marriage is not the same. Original post. If you think we're young, then think again. I'm female 35 and is male 33, and I can't believe this is really happening. I begged him to go to therapy with me, but he's refusing any type of conversation. About a month ago, while having Sunday breakfast, my husband left his iPad on the counter when I was doing the dishes and went to the gym. Now that I think about it, he went out of his way to draw my attention to the iPad the whole morning, placing it on display and leaving it wherever it was. Now I know why. When I was loading the dishwasher, he got a text and a picture of naked female torso with a caption, "You missed this?" The number belonged to Eve. I've frozen my tracks. We've been married for 2 years and we have 2 children together, male 5 and female 3. Against my better judgment, I started looking, and there was this full conversation for over a week. He was cheating on me with this Eve. I can't describe the amount of pain I felt, and I ran to the bathroom vomiting and crying. Anyway, when he got back from the gym and asked me what's wrong, I just handed him the iPad and told him that he has gotten a text from Eve and that I needed to go out for a walk if he could stay with the children. He said okay. I went for a 3-hour walk. He texted me multiple times if I was okay and I said that I was fine, just needed a walk. I don't remember crying this much my entire life. When I got home, I told him that I knew about his affair. I'd asked him how we're going to do this. Do what? I told him that we obviously can't stay married, but that I needed to know how we're going to do this with the least damage possible to the children. I told him that since he has his parents living nearby, he could move out and let me stay with the children for now until we're separated. He says, "Is that really all your reaction? Are you freaking serious right now?" I just looked at him all puzzled. What did he mean by this? I told him that I couldn't discuss this now because I was exhausted. He started yelling that I was so careless and cold. My reaction to his infidelity wasn't a proper reaction, or at least not one he expected. He then shoved the iPad in my hands and asked me to call Eve. I refused and ran to our room because I couldn't believe how cruel he was being, wanting me to call his mistress. Effing call the number. So I did. And the number belonged to his friend and he was laughing on the other line saying it was all a prank. It took me a few moments to get it, but then I started crying. My husband was livid at the way I handled the prank. He was disappointed that I didn't care enough. I don't know what he wanted me to do. He couldn't explain what he expected me to act. He just yelled that he didn't expect this. Now, a month later, he's still so cold and distant with me. I tried to apologize and explain that I was hurt, but shocked because that wasn't him. I tried to explain that I just didn't want to hurt our children. I told him that I loved him so much, and that if that was something true, it would have broken me. It did for the few hours I believed the prank. But he thinks I'm too cold and apathetic and my reaction was abnormal. So now he's cold and apathetic towards me, and I think this whole situation is abnormal. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Hey man, remember the time we convinced your wife you were cheating? Yeah, haha, had her good. She was crying and screaming and vomiting. Silly witch. Yeah. Still see the kids? Nope. This is literally the stupidest husband in the world. What a complete idiot and an a-hole. He enjoyed seeing his wife upset. I would exit this relationship very quickly. This almost reminds me of that story about the husband who put slugs into his wife's food because he enjoyed torturing her. What's so appealing about emotionally, in this case, or physically, in the slug case, torturing your significant other that you chose to spend the rest of your life with? It's scary. This is the crappiest, most immature prank I've read about it in a while. It's not even a prank. It's just cruel. I know. I still wake up in terror from nightmares. Stop apologizing. He has the audacity to tell you how you should feel or react to him cheating? Who does he think he is to determine the correct reaction? He is butthurt that you are confident and logical enough that you won't break apart from the thought of not having him. He fancied himself all you had, and is enraged you are confident and know your worth. He is honestly one of the worst cases of narcissistic tendencies I've heard of. I would tell him that he is a deeply messed up individual, and unless he goes to therapy to see why he needs you to break apart at the idea of not having him, you think he should go to his parents and you need time to reevaluate. Did he expect you to get down on your knees and beg him to stay? These freaking pranks have gotten out of hand. That's such a messed up prank, especially to leave you ruminating on it for hours too. Also, what kind of prank about cheating with weeks building up for it? That's so horrible. It sounds like he was just trying to hurt you. And what is up with his reaction? Like what? He expects you to stay with him if he cheats on you? Freaking hell. He and his friends are doing it to their wives/girlfriends. My reaction wasn't as good as the other women apparently. What would a good reaction be? Did he want you to be all jealous to show your love for him? You reacted in a calm, mature manner. Honestly, I probably would have been the same. He pulled a crappy prank and is mad at you for your reaction. He's not taking any accountability for the harm he caused. You have no reason to apologize to him. He was being a bad partner. He and his friends need to find a hobby. And probably new partners. This is so low. I am so sorry this happened to you. I am enraged on your behalf. He's actually lucky. I've seen so many women get the screenshots and not tell the husband. They go right to the attorney for papers. His butt could have been handed divorce papers. He should be the one apologizing. He probably won't, as he's too immature to even see how harmful this was to your trust. That even as a joke, you still had the same gutted reaction. You got physically sick thinking about you and your children's future. You can see a therapist for yourself. Maybe he'll come to one of the sessions. First update. I don't know why the apologizing part is being taken out of context, making me out to be a weak woman with no self-respect. I'm not apologizing nor begging. I apologized, and not because I thought I did anything wrong, but because he was hurt by my lack of emotions. I explained to him that my lack of emotions came from shock and not indifference. He did not buy it, and that's where we are now. Also, the fact that I answered truthfully about my husband never acting this way before and was downvoted because of it. I'm not saying that because I'm being a victim of brainwashing, but because that's the truth. I'm not defending him. I'm trying to be accurate in case someone actually wants to help me. I need all the facts rather than just cast judgment based on their own experiences and assumptions. This is the first time we hit a dead end, it seems, in our relationship. We have always been a loving couple, and if I was a weak, manipulated, mistreated wife with low self-respect, I wouldn't be planning separation and divorce the moment I thought he was cheating. I won't be engaging with the negativity anymore, and I honestly regret opening up to strangers just to be attacked. I'm thankful for the support from the majority, but I hate the feeling that I need to agree with BS assumptions or I'm being defensive or an apologist. I'm not deleting this post in case someone somewhere can benefit from it, but I'm done here. Second update. Hi, I decided to make an update after all, mostly out of respect for all of the people reaching out asking for one. I will make it private however, because honestly, as much as I appreciate the enormous response, it became overwhelming for me. I couldn't read all the comments, and a bad one stuck with me more than I want to admit. I never considered myself weak or stupid or as easily manipulated as I was portrayed. This morning, before my husband dropped off the children at daycare and the dogs at a dog center, I asked him to talk to me. I told him that his treatment of me for the last month wasn't sustainable and that I have given him space long enough. But now he has to do something. Talk to me, try to find a solution, or set me free. He asked me to meet up with him for lunch because we were both running late for work. At lunch, he apologized for the prank and he said he couldn't believe that he went with it and how stupid it was of him to think that it was harmless and playful. He said that he had been feeling miserable about it and so guilty, but that he has never felt so worthless in his entire life. I showed him how disposable he was to me and how easily I could believe something this horrible about him, accept it, and make plans to move on within hours. Even if I have cheated on you, you showed no sign that you loved me enough to at least ask me why. If the roles were reversed, he would have been angry. He would have confronted me. He would have asked me why, who the other man was, what it was that he, the other man, had that he didn't, and so on. I told him I was thinking all of these things, but I had other priorities, like the stability of my children's family life, and the hurt it would cost them to have divorced parents. Because he knew me well enough to understand that I would never forgive a cheater. I pushed away my anger and feelings of disappointment because all I was thinking of was how we could provide our children the best life with 2 homes. I was eventually going to process the anger and hurt. I knew I had all the time later for grief and rage. So, he told me that he wanted to move out to his parents but that he wasn't sure how to manage without seeing the children every day. So, I suggested that he could pick them up from daycare every day since I work later than him. I could pick them up from my in-laws after work. I also suggested that we could split the weekend. He was silent while I was planning. He then said, "I love you," and kissed me and hugged me for a long while for the first time in weeks. When I got home after picking up the children and the dogs, he was already gone with his clothes. He texted me around 11 p.m. saying that he couldn't believe that I was doing it again and that it was done. I called him and he told me I was, again, a matter of fact and unemotional. I seemed unfazed, like him moving out wasn't a big deal. He felt redundant again and disposable and unnecessary in my life. I told him this was so unfair because I've missed him, and I have missed him all these weeks when he was ignoring me. I was just trying to give him space and respected his wishes because I still wanted us to work things out. He didn't want to listen anymore, so we hung up. At 2 a.m., he texted that this wasn't working for him and he wanted a divorce. I just texted back, okay. Third update. I want to thank you very much for all the support. I'm sorry for all the doubtful voices about help from strangers on Reddit. While I'm my own woman and isn't easily manipulated, I was so appreciative of the support here. I was doubting myself, brooding and all consumed in my own confused thoughts. My husband found my posts, and he said he was so ashamed of himself and the way he handled our problem, especially after reading all the comments calling him out. Now, we have a lot of work to do if we're going to make it. I'm still not 100% sure why he acted the way he did because I've always been clear about my feelings and how much I love him. I never felt that life and the children came in the way. It just made my love for him even stronger. But I'm not gonna dismiss his feelings if he really felt neglected and disposable. He hasn't moved home yet, but we have been on dates and we have been spending quality time together. Before all of this happened, we were talking about having another baby and maybe moving into a bigger house. We are waiting with this. I wasn't sure how I would tell him that I wanted to wait without it sounding like I'm cold and have given up on our future. So I tried to show more emotions this time and make it clear that I just want to wait until we're back on track. I don't cancel the plans altogether, but he was actually understanding and kind of relieved. We'll see how this goes. I love and miss him so much, and the children miss their daddy at home. Thank you again. He is obsessed with testing you and your reactions. How childish. And after you explained how you put your own emotions aside to process later, because your first thoughts were how to make sure your kids were okay, the way he keeps reacting is a huge red flag. Please don't take him back. He blew up at you for prioritizing your children. Run. He's embarrassed about what he did. He read all my comments, and he was really ashamed. Odd, because I told him everything I wrote here, so I don't know why it's made more impact on him seeing it in writing. I've asked him whether he's jealous of our own children, and he said maybe, but that he regrets that too, because he's ashamed. This is the heart of the problem. He is insecure, so he is constantly testing you. The problem, as far as he is concerned, is that you are the emotionally mature person in the relationship. So, he tests to get an emotional reaction from you that would reassure him that you really do care about him, but you respond with logic and reason, setting emotions aside. This comes off as cold, distant, and uncaring to him. Let me guess, his family of origin is volatile with lots of spectacular fights followed by magnificent makeups. Yes to the last part. His mom is very hot-headed, but she was very understanding when I told her my version, and she gave him a scolding. His parents are very good people, and they love each other deeply. There you go. I'm sure they are good people. They've also taught your husband that a loving relationship is a volatile one. One shows one cares by fighting and getting angry and upset and then making up. You are more emotionally mature. You can hold on to your emotions, set them aside, and deal with problems with logic. To your husband, who expects anger and explosiveness from loved ones, your response appears cold and unfeeling. He flat out told you so. Counseling would help. I don't want him to move back home just yet. The time frame is when I start trusting him again. He is troubled, and I want him to get to the bottom of why he's so troubled before I let him completely back in my life. And he must understand the pain he put me through. Last story. My wife resents me because our life isn't like the social media she watches. Basically what the title reads. My wife is obsessed with TikTok and Instagram. She follows these influencers who appear to have crazy lives where they travel the world and have huge closets full of clothes, and everything seems so perfect. I see my wife just staring at their posts looking depressed, and I've begged her to just take a break from it, and she won't. Now, my wife and I aren't rich by any means, but we are definitely comfortable. We both drive nice paid-off vehicles, have zero debt, have a roof over our head, renting, and have a pretty fat nest egg in the bank, as well as a nice Roth. We never go without, and she's able to shop constantly and has all she needs, but it's never enough. We have been married for a little over 4 years, and we have traveled to many different states that neither of us have been to, and have always thought they were fun vacations. Well, cut to last week. She randomly goes, "I want you to take me to Paris." And I said, "Maybe one day. The world is kind of crazy right now, and I wouldn't mind waiting." And she replies, "My broke friend from work is getting to go to Europe. Yet you refuse to take me on any fun trips. I knew I should have traveled before marrying you." And then tells me of all the influencers who she watches that get to travel for a living, while we have a boring life. I'm not sure why, but this broke my heart. I try so hard for her, and plan weekend getaways and vacations, and surprise her with nice gifts, and she acts like she regrets marrying me. I'm only 25 and she's 23, and we have the rest of our lives ahead of us. I don't know what to do, but I'm tired of never feeling like I'm enough. I've told her how I feel, and she told me that I need to man up and quit complaining, and that I'm a sensitive child. I love her, but fear that divorce will be my only option. I can't live like this forever. Now for the top advice. I love her, but fear that divorce will be my only option. I can't live like this forever. You may be right. I find myself wondering how old she is, and how she's so susceptible to influence like this. She's 23, I'm 25. Lol, there's your answer. You guys are very young, and it's completely normal to have wanderlust at that age, and feel somewhat caged by the lifestyle you have. However, I agree social media is very toxic in regards to this. How about you guys do a few backpacking trips together in Europe or South America? You don't need to be staying at Ritz in Paris, but you guys can stay at cheap hostels/hotels and have some interesting adventures that it sounds like you can afford. It could scratch your wife's itch for travel, brings you guys closer together, and spice things up with adventure. I want to, just not now. I just feel like everything is on the edge in the world. I also feel like I would be giving in to her immature whining if we went right now.